Part 76. Global High Martial Arts, copy SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Yunzhong Mu Shui. Chapter 751. But now. Just when Lu Yu closed his eyes in pain, suddenly, the chest of the strange source was pierced by a sword. Its body was disintegrating into the law, and its eyes looked behind it in confusion. A golden figure stood there and drew out the Fuxi sword. It's just in time. Chapter 0568. The Emperor of Man appeared, and there was a big problem. It's just in time. The golden shadow smiled and put away the sword. The strange source was collapsing into the power of the law. It didn't really die, but its body was disintegrating. The next moment, it reconstructed in the distance. Looking at the golden figure, the strange source's face was extremely ugly. "You, how did you get out? Why, do you have any objection to me coming out?" The golden figure seemed to be very familiar with the strange source, and the two talked. And Lu Yu watched from the side, his expression gradually hesitated. Fuxi sword. But the Fuxi sword was on him. Could it be that this person is? A bold guess emerged in Lu Yu's heart. And the goddess Xiantian was even more stunned. She stood there for a long time, and suddenly her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. Human Emperor. After saying this, the golden figure did not turn back immediately, but was silent for a long time before turning around. "Goddess, long time no see." The golden light faded, and an extremely powerful man revealed his true face. After seeing this scene, the goddess Xiantian burst into tears. And Lu Yu was also stunned. Good guy. Is it really the human emperor? Damn. Finally here. At this moment, Lu Yu just wanted to sing a song. I have waited for a long time until today, and I have dreamed for a long time and finally dreamed of it now. Now, I can go back to retire. The great responsibility will be handed over to the human emperor. Thinking of this, Lu Yu smiled. Brother Ren Huang, I just met you, it's like an old friend. Lu Yu enthusiastically shook Ren Huang's hand. Ren Huang looked at Lu Yu with a smile on his face. Fortunately I came, otherwise you might really be bewitched by it. Lu Yu. Who do you look down on? Just this little doubt? I can still stand the test of the organization. He, I just tempted it, otherwise you, Ren Huang, would never have the chance to poke its ass. Lu Yu smiled. Ren Huang heard this and couldn't deny it. Seeing this, Lu Yu smiled even happier. He patted Ren Huang's shoulder heavily. The next task will be handed over to your Ren Huang, I will retreat first. As he said, Lu Yu turned around and was about to leave. However, Ren Huang grabbed his shoulder. Wait, where are you going? Home. Lu Yu looked puzzled. No way. Ren Huang, you are back, you can't even handle this little thing. Lu Yu looked at Ren Huang with surprise, and the tone was clearly. Human Emperor, you are so awesome, it is impossible that you can't even deal with a small weird source, right? No way, no way. Seeing Lu Yu's eyes, the human emperor was silent for a while. I know you have grievances, but the problem still needs to be solved. Heh, you still know that I have grievances, Lu Yu hugged his shoulders and said. Don't mention it. For such a long time, I don't know where the human emperor has been lost. If I hadn't dragged it by force, the crystal would have exploded long ago. And from the human emperor bloodline in his body, it is obvious that the human emperor has arranged everything long ago. The abacus is clacking. I'm sorry about what happened to you, I will explain it to you later, but the problem now is to solve it. As he said, the human emperor looked at the weird source. Lu Yu also looked over. The weird source squinted at the human emperor and Lu Yu, with a sneer on his face. It's ridiculous. The eighth human emperor, it's really surprising that you can escape from there, but if you really think you can compete, you are too confident, right? As soon as the voice fell, the strange source disappeared instantly. He ran away without saying a word. What surprised Lu Yu was that the human emperor didn't chase him. "Human emperor, why don't you?" Before Lu Yu finished speaking, he saw that the breath of the human emperor was rapidly declining, and black blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. This scared Lu Yu a lot. Just when he wanted to help him, the human emperor took the initiative to push him away. "Don't come over, I have the source substance on me." As he said, the human emperor wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. I saw that after the black blood left the human emperor's body, it actually drilled a hole in the void and disappeared. This surprised Lu Yu. What's going on? Is there something wrong with the human emperor's body? The eyes of the goddess Xiantian also turned red again. "Human emperor, what happened to you?" "There are a lot of things to do, let's go back first," human emperor said. Seeing this, Lu Yu didn't say anything more. Goddess Xiantian was even more worried. The three of them returned to the moon goddess Great Wall. Many general domain masters looked at the human emperor with some confusion. They didn't know who this person was, but the strength that the human emperor showed just now was indeed shocking. In this regard, Lu Yu didn't explain too much, and took the human emperor to a secret room in the moon goddess Great Wall, and then arranged his own Dao rules around to prevent being eavesdropped by the weird source. "What happened to you, human emperor?" Lu Yu's expression was a little solemn. "There is something wrong with the body of the human emperor." "This is nonsense, anyone can see it." "The realm of the human emperor must be above the supreme. The injury cannot be cured even at this realm, and even needs to be suppressed by force." Lu Yu was very surprised. Global High Martial Arts, copy SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Yunzhong Mu Shui. Chapter 752. Goddess Xiantian had already burst into tears. She glanced at Lu Yu and then at the human emperor. "Human emperor, what is the relationship between this fake human emperor and you?" Lu Yu. "Sister goddess, I have told you a long time ago that I am no longer the human emperor. I have said it many times. Who can I blame if you don't believe me?" Lu Yu spread his hands and said. Goddess Xiantian was speechless when she heard this. Indeed, Lu Yu told himself many times, but every time, he thought he was lying to himself. Now the real emperor appears, but the injury is so serious, which makes the goddess Xiantian very sad. The human emperor looked at the Xiantian goddess with a complicated expression. "I'm fine for now. You can go out first. I have something to talk to Lu Yu alone." "Good." When goddess Xiantian heard this, she had no choice but to leave even if she didn't want to. Right now, only Lu Yu and the human emperor were left in the secret room. Lu Yu looked closely at the human emperor. Blood is still oozing from the corners of the human emperor's mouth. That black blood seems to have a strange and incomparable power, and it can actually interfere with the human emperor's power of Tao. "How about it, I didn't lie to you." The human emperor shook his head and grinned. "If I could come back, I would have come back a long time ago, and I wouldn't have been trapped there for so long." "Where are you trapped?" Lu Yu's eyes became confused. He really didn't know these things. Hearing Lu Yu ask these questions, the human emperor shook his head. "It cannot be said. If I say it, it will be in vain." Obviously, the human emperor did not expect Lu Yu to understand. But in fact, Lu Yu understood. "Unspeakable. Are you talking about a coffin?" Lu Yu became slightly excited. Although he spoke, no sound came out. Some kind of mysterious force deprived the transmission of information. But even so, the human emperor read something from Lu Yu's eyes. "Have you seen it?" Chapter 0569. Where have you been and how long can you last? "Have you seen it?" The human emperor's voice was also filled with excitement. Lu Yu nodded. "I've seen it." "So best." The human emperor seemed to have let go of something. He didn't ask Lu Yu how he saw it, because asking was in vain as he couldn't say or write anything. But it doesn't matter, as long as you've seen it. That's where I was trapped, the human emperor said calmly. Just these words made Lu Yu uneasy. Where have you been? Lu Yu quickly asked. The human emperor nodded. Gone. Hiss. As soon as these words came out, Lu Yu was shocked. The human emperor has been to the coffin? You know, the picture you saw at that time. It's something inside the coffin that's feeding on the destroyed worlds one after another. And the sources of strangeness seem to be controlled by it, which is extremely terrifying. And in such a place, the human emperor actually said that he had been there? Still trapped there? Lu Yu almost bit off his tongue. What are you doing there? Lu Yu couldn't help but ask. The human emperor glanced at him. Finding a way to break the situation. This. Lu Yu was stunned. He suddenly thought of something and spoke again. Human emperor, you have been to the old universe, right? The human emperor nodded. This made Lu Yu suddenly realize. It turns out that the sword marks and armor he saw in the old universe were left behind by the human emperor. As if aware of what Lu Yu was thinking, the human emperor spoke out. It was in the old universe that I took that crucial step. A crucial step. Lu Yu cheered up. Then human emperor, what state are you in now? There is no realm. The human emperor shook his head. After a warrior takes that supreme step, he has already reached the pinnacle. If he goes any further, he no longer belongs to the category of warrior. As for the division of realms, it is even less clear. The human emperor's words made Lu Yu think deeply. No realm. Interesting. Lu Yu thought for a while and then thought of something else. Isn't the old world a way to break the situation? Well, it counts for you, but not for me. The human emperor shook his head. The path I took is not your path. The path is different, and the results are different. In addition, I can't take your path. Your origin is very special. The human emperor glanced at Lu Yu with deep meaning. Lu Yu raised his head. That must be it. But despite that, Lu Yu was still curious. Human emperor, did you gain anything by going there? No. The human emperor shook his head. As he spoke, he coughed up a mouthful of black blood again. Lu Yu's eyes became more and more confused. Human emperor, what is going on with you? I have been contaminated by the source material, the human emperor said with a bitter smile. But Lu Yu was a little confused. What is source matter? It's what you saw on the thing. The human emperor gave a brief explanation, which made Lu Yu's eyes narrow. The contents of the coffin. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Global High Martial Arts, copy SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Yunzhong Mu. Chapter 753. Then Emperor Ren, can your injury be cured? I'm afraid it won't work. The Emperor Ren shook his head, his face unsightly. Lu Yu. So you're going to give it away for free? Lu Yu said he couldn't stand it. Is that thing so overbearing? Well, the weird source you saw has actually been completely polluted. Lu Yu was silent for a while. You mean, you will also become the weird source? Don't you still have it? You can do it yourself when the time comes. The Emperor Ren smiled freely, which made Lu Yu even more silent. He didn't expect that the Emperor Ren came out, but brought such news. According to this, the existence in the coffin is unstoppable? You don't have to worry too much. At present, it seems that there won't be any big problems, provided that you can reach a high enough level in a short enough time. The Emperor Ren said. Lu Yu nodded when he heard this. I know this, but I'm not sure how long it can last, and whether the weird source will take action. Don't worry, it has restrictions on its body, and it's not as easy as you think. It was just threatening you before. After the human emperor said this, Lu Yu was completely relieved. He was afraid that the weird source would continue to threaten him with this matter. That would be really troublesome. And now, according to the human emperor, it seems that it is not so easy for the other party to take action? Lu Yu pondered for this period of time, and the human emperor laughed. Why, are you afraid of being threatened? Lu Yu was too lazy to answer this question. Everyone has to be afraid, right? But he suddenly thought of something. Lu Ling is the moon god. Lu Yu asked this question that had been buried in his heart for a long time. The human emperor glanced at him when he heard it. Why, you still don't know? Not sure. Lu Yu shook his head. He had never carefully explored Lu Ling's identity. Because he was afraid. He was afraid that his sister was really someone else. I am afraid that after she really wakes up, she will not be the same Xiaoling. In response, the human emperor laughed. I think you may worry too much. Lu Ling has half of the blood of the moon god, just like I have half of my blood in you. The real moon god is not her. The words of the human emperor undoubtedly made Lu Yu completely relieved. But he was also a little confused. Who is the real moon god? She should be with your sister now, right? The human emperor smiled. A face suddenly appeared in Lu Yu's mind. Xiao 11? Lu Yu and the human emperor left the moon god Great Wall. Xiao 11 had been kept on Earth by Lu Yu and was not sent to the Orion Academy. And now, Lu Yu saw her again. Lu Yu, who is next to you? Xiao 11 looked at the human emperor next to Lu Yu with a puzzled look. The human emperor looked a little helpless. It seems that she hasn't awakened yet. Then how can we make her awaken? Don't rush. Let her awaken. Seeing my current state, she might be very sad, the human emperor said calmly. It is difficult to eradicate the pollution of the source material. He didn't want the moon god to see his current miserable state. Lu Yu didn't say anything after hearing this. It's okay if she doesn't awaken. If she awakens, I'm afraid of the impact on Xiaoling. After talking to Xiao 11 for a few words, Lu Yu sent Xiao 11 to the Orion Academy and then left here. In the starry sky, Lu Yu's speed slowed down a little. Human Emperor, I know why you value my identity, but why do you want to keep half of your blood in me? Lu Yu looked at the human emperor. There was a faint smile on the human emperor's face. Without my blood, how can you live to talk to me now? The human emperor looked Lu Yu up and down. Lu Yu. It seems to be the case. Unable to refute, Lu Yu simply didn't refute and asked another question directly. I'm going to the old world to break through in seclusion soon. How long can you hold on? Lu Yu looked at the human emperor. The human emperor smiled slightly. Hold on until you succeed. Are you sure about your current state? Why, you don't believe me? The human emperor's originally decadent aura suddenly became stronger, and his face was ruddy. But Lu Yu could clearly see that this was overdrawing his life. Chapter 0570, a little further than the predecessors, the only beauty. This is overdrawing life to get back to the peak state. Lu Yu was a little silent. At the level of the human emperor, there may no longer be natural birth, aging, illness and death. But it does not mean that you can't die. As long as you want to die, there are still many ways to die. Sighing, Lu Yu nodded. Okay, I can. The reason why he asked the human emperor this question was mainly because he was afraid that the weird source would take action. After all, even if the time in the old world was still relative to the outside world, Lu Yu still didn't know. Can the weird source take action in the outside world? The flow speeds of the two worlds are different, which is equivalent to 1,000 years in the outside world, while only 1 second has passed in the old world. Although this is the case, for the existence of the weird source that can create rules. Time itself is controllable. Although it is impossible to go upstream, it is quite easy to slow it down. Are you going to the old world? The emperor looked at Lu Yu and said. Lu Yu nodded. Yes, I'm going there to retreat. Okay, good luck to you. Global High Martial Arts, copy SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Yunzhong Mu Shui. Chapter 754. A smile appeared on the human emperor's face. For some reason, Lu Yu didn't feel any relief in the human emperor's eyes. Human emperor, do you think we have a chance? After a long silence, Lu Yu spoke up again and looked at the human emperor. The human emperor still had a faint smile on his face. Whether we can succeed or not depends on trying. If we fail, it doesn't happen once or twice. We failed. Even if the universe is destroyed, there will still be people in the new world who will fight, right? Lu Yu didn't know how to refute. Failure doesn't happen once or twice. If you fail, there will still be people who will fight against it. Life continues. After a long time, will the Great Wall be evaluated by other living beings just like I admire the old world? Lu Yu didn't know, he could only give it a try. In fact, he could also see that the human emperor was trying his best to hide something. For example, that exists in the coffin. I can't say it, I don't want to mention it, it's too despairing. But what can I do? I have already come this far. It would be a pity to lie down again. Well, that's it, I'm leaving first. Lu Yu waved his hand, stood up and left the stone room. The human emperor and Lu Yu came to the Great Wall, patted their shoulders, and smiled with emotion. No matter what era, there is a need for heroes who shed their lives and blood, and no matter what era, there are always people who are indignant and rise up. Our struggle has lasted for many universes, and so far no one has succeeded, but I think you have some hope, kid. The human emperor encouraged Lu Yu. Lu Yu smiled when he heard this. Human emperor, you are not bad, at least you can go further than your predecessors. Yes, only by standing on the shoulders of those who came before us can we go further. It's just a pity that we still can't see the end of the road. The human emperor smiled, but did not say the second half of the sentence. Then, he watched Lu Yu leave. Goddess Xiantian stood next to the human emperor with doubtful eyes. Human emperor, what is your relationship with this little guy named Lu Yu? Yes, but it doesn't matter. The human emperor put his hands behind his back, looked in the direction of the eighth Great Wall, and said with a smile. On his body, a transcendent aura spread out and enveloped the entire moon god wall. Outside the Great Wall of Luna, Lu Yu took one step forward and was already on top of the eighth Great Wall. Immediately, he took a few steps again, and in an instant, he had reached the first Great Wall, his speed reaching the extreme. After entering the first Great Wall and finding the first heavenly court, Lu Yu was already standing in front of the void entrance a moment later. In the black hole, a figure slowly walked out. You'd better not make any more useless attempts, the source of strangeness said calmly. The power of law on it disappeared, revealing a faceless face. Lu Yu stared at him and smiled. You have said this to me many times. You're going to die. It's been said more often. I don't mean I took action. Lu Yu narrowed his eyes. What do you want to say? The Lord has noticed you. The source of the strangeness looked at Lu Yu, with black mist billowing in his eyes. If you dare to violate the rules again, endless regret will be waiting for you. If you want to scare the children, just say less, Lu Yu said calmly. The source of strangeness laughed when he heard this. There was a time when I was as naive as you. What do you mean? Lu Yu asked. The strange source shook his head and looked at a certain place in the void. What do you think I am? In your eyes, am I the embodiment of evil? I think so, but I can tell you clearly that a long time ago, maybe my body was filled with passion just like yours. Fantasy, and benefit the world. I was once a peerless genius, crowned for countless generations, and finally reached the pinnacle, created my own world, and was revered as the creator. But what happened? Do you think you can change everything? Too ridiculous. The aura of the strange being fluctuated violently. A painful face appeared, looking at Lu Yu ferociously. The true invincibles have been destroyed for a long time, and everything will be overturned. This universe is just one of thousands of worlds in the eyes of the Lord. There is nothing special about everyone. Destruction is the only beauty. When everything is silent, everything will show an indescribable beauty. The source of weirdness calmed down again. The pain face was suppressed. He looked at Lu Yu. Now, do you understand? There is no point in killing me. I am just one of the thousands of slaves of the Lord. Your real despair is the Lord, the real master. Do you understand? The source of the strangeness said a lot, and Lu Yu's eyes were very calm. I admit that part of what you said may be the truth, but if you want to scare me away like this, I'm afraid it will be a bit difficult. This time, it was the source of the strangeness's turn to be silent. He looked at Lu Yu for a long time and finally stepped aside. Go forward, embark on this road of no return, ignorant warrior. Looking at the black hole, Lu Yu shook his head and walked in. Regardless of whether what the strange source said was true or false, he had to go in. No one can stop yourself. What Lu Yu thought was so simple. Entering the old world, what you see is still an ancient road with no end in sight. Forward, only forward. This time, Lu Yu completed the ancient road and entered the old world in one step. After entering the old world, Lu Yu stood there for a long time. In the end, he did not go to his retreat place, but came to the blue planet. This is the first civilization born after the destruction of the old world. Its formation is deeply related to Lu Yu. At this moment, Lu Yu is observing the situation of this planet. What makes him shake his head is that this civilization is under attack from another civilization in the same small galaxy. Chapter 0571 Creating Civilization, the Destruction of Civilization. The two civilizations are located in the same small galaxy. During the time he was away, another civilization was born in this small galaxy. And this civilization is developing very fast. At present, both civilizations are in the interstellar era. The civilization that invades one side is obviously more technologically advanced. The mother planet of the first civilization to be born is already riddled with holes. Obviously, the destruction of civilization is just a matter of time. And Lu Yu watched quietly by the side, without taking any action, just watching indifferently. After growing from an ordinary person to a creator in a certain sense, Lu Yu's thinking seemed to have jumped out, no longer looking at the entire civilization as an individual creature. Nor would he look at the entire universe from a certain civilization. Instead, he truly looked down on the overall situation. He didn't want to interfere. If he saved one civilization, another civilization would suffer a fatal blow. Lu Yu noticed that the emerging civilization was very lacking in certain materials, which was also the reason why they developed so rapidly. Because death was approaching step by step. If he saved the civilization that was about to be destroyed, it would be a disguised way to strangle another civilization. Maybe he could help them create what they needed, but this was meaningless. Finally, under Lu Yu's gaze, the first civilization born in the universe was destroyed. The second civilization obtained everything left by the first civilization, and they seemed very excited. Global High Martial Arts, copy SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Yunzhong Shui. Chapter 755. The faces that were somewhat similar to those of the human race were filled with expressions of joy. Obviously, they had escaped. But Lu Yu looked at all this and sighed. Powerless. Even though he could easily rewrite all this, Lu Yu still felt a sense of powerlessness. To protect this civilization is to kill another civilization. When you use love to protect the sheep from harm, then for the wolf, this love is equal to destruction. Even if a compromise method is adopted, more civilizations will be born in the universe in the future. Can he find the kind of truly harmonious and unified method among millions or even tens of millions of civilizations? No interests, no conflicts, everything is thriving? Lu Yu must admit that this is difficult. From the perspective of survival, life is destined to be selfish, and this is true for any life. Unless they are transformed. But can the transformed life be called life? It's just a toy without thoughts. Lu Yu's mood became heavier. He thought of a sentence said by the weird source. Destruction is the only beauty. When everything is silent, everything will present an indescribable beauty. But this empty beauty is hard for Lu Yu to accept. After taking a last look at the second civilization, Lu Yu sighed and left. I can't think too much now. In the old world, I am their creator. But in the original universe, I am just myself. Maybe I am a little stronger, but I still have concerns and people I want to protect with all my strength. That's all. Back to the retreat, Lu Yu closed his eyes. The path to transcend the Supreme, what I chose is the path of creation. This point destined Lu Yu and the weird source, and even the existence in the coffin, to stand on the absolute opposite side. But Lu Yu didn't care. Closing his eyes, Lu Yu began to try to comprehend the law. After a long time, he opened his eyes. This time, he clearly felt the passage of time. Because the surviving second civilization has completely transformed the small galaxy where it is located and moved towards the entire galaxy. At the same time, dozens of civilizations were born in that galaxy. Only a few of them survived. And it was these few that fought a great war in the galaxy. The weapons were very powerful, destroying planets at any time, and the battle was fierce. Lu Yu saw all this. The origin of their dispute was simple. They all wanted to occupy a certain resource planet and annex each other. Of course, most of the reasons were to annex each other. After all, anyone could pose a threat. Lu Yu looked at all this, without interfering or paying attention. He was a little regretful that he had been in seclusion for so long. His realm was still unchanged. The road to creation, maybe I have to really try to create it. After thinking for a long time, Lu Yu stood up and walked out of the retreat. He glanced at it and saw that the war between civilizations had ended. One civilization won the final victory, and the other two civilizations failed and became subordinates. The civilization that he paid attention to at the beginning was one of the losers. After realizing this, Lu Yu left here. He went to the other side of the universe. Here, the universe was still in a desolate state. After thinking for a long time, Lu Yu took action. He created a single-celled organism with a very simple structure, and then transformed a small galaxy into a habitable state for life. Finally, the time flow rate of the entire small galaxy was accelerated. 1:1000000. Lu Yu watched quietly on the side. Over the years, he watched countless creatures being born and extinct without interfering. Finally, on this day, he still took action. Because a humanoid creature was born, but they were on the verge of extinction, the climate had changed greatly, and at the same time a certain creature posed a great threat to their survival. Lu Yu transformed the environment for them. He wanted to see how far a certain civilization could reach under deliberate human interference. And then, under a series of coincidences set up by Lu Yu, this civilization developed rapidly. It took them 2,000 years from the Stone Age to the Iron Age. But it took less than 500 years from the Iron Age to the Steam Age. The speed was even faster afterwards. The Steam Age entered the Information Age in just 100 years. And in the Information Age, the fourth technological explosion occurred. It took only 50 years from the information age to the interstellar age. Almost all historians of the entire civilization praised it, and the whole nation was celebrating. It looked like a complete victory of civilization. But Lu Yu noticed that under this amazing prosperity, a series of crises were buried. Resource depletion and environmental crisis. These 2 points are not too big a problem. Finding a suitable planet can solve it. What really made Lu Yu shake his head was the extreme contradictions born under this advanced civilization development. Because technology developed too rapidly, many contradictions in society itself were not solved at all, but indulged. What Lu Yu could notice now was that a certain organization had obtained weapons capable of destroying planets and was plotting to rewrite everything. In this regard, Lu Yu did not interfere. It is no longer necessary. Civilization has developed to this point, and it is still on the verge of destruction. Whether it is internal conflicts or external factors, they are all driving this process. There is no need for me to interfere. Finally, under Lu Yu's gaze, the entire planet turned into a ball of brilliant sparks. Complete destruction. Looking back at the original civilization that occupied the galaxy, he has expanded his territory to the entire galaxy cluster. All this made Lu Yu fall into deep thought. The civilization created by himself can be said to have grown up under his protection, which also caused many problems. On the other hand, this civilization has been full of blood and fire all the way, and seems to be full of suffering. But his existence is indeed longer than other civilizations. Is it the self-evolution of civilization? The creator only needs to give a basic variable amount, and the civilization can consciously move towards the direction that is conducive to survival? Lu Yu felt that he seemed to have grasped something. Without any hesitation, he went back to retreat again. This time, Lu Yu finally felt something. An invisible shackle. Lu Yu knew that he had finally reached the threshold. Although it seemed a long way off, Lu Yu could afford to waste time. Chapter 0572, The Realm of the God of Creation, a blow that reverses time and space. Time passed calmly, and the entire universe was undergoing earth-shaking changes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Global High Martial Arts, copy SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Yunzhong Mu. Chapter 756. The galaxy is destroyed, and civilization is born. Only Lu Yu's place has become a restricted area in the universe, and no living creature can explore it. Gradually, this place seems to have become a restricted area for life. Any living creature that enters can never come out again. Until it is completely forgotten. And Lu Yu has never been out of it. His Tao rules are scattered throughout the universe, changing everything. More and more civilizations are born and destroyed. Nothing is interfered with. As time goes by, some super empires are born. With the entire super galaxy cluster as the base, radiate and expand. There are 3 such super galaxy clusters in the universe. The 3 are enemies, and finally an unprecedented war breaks out. The war destroyed everything, and the universe seemed to have returned to the starting point, and all things began. Life multiplied again. The spring and autumn cycled several times, civilization was destroyed, and resurrected in the ashes. I don't know how long it took, when the first star in the universe was extinguished. The universe, the first martial arts civilization appeared. This martial arts civilization spent millions of years and finally gave birth to a warrior who truly possessed the power to destroy the world. He established a martial arts empire, but in the end, this martial arts empire also fell. More powerful warriors were born, and the road of martial arts continued to extend. Finally one day, a warrior opened his eyes and looked at the starry sky. I feel that our martial arts road has reached its limit. The moment these words came out, the entire universe was shaking. In that star field known as the Life Forbidden Zone, a power that transcends everything and is enough to create the world covers everything. All life in the universe looked at a certain point, and there, a person walked out. The power of endless rules enveloped him. His face was blurred, and his breath was like the deep sea. Breakthrough. Lu Yu felt the attention of the universe, and his turbid eyes became clear. No one could see him, he himself no longer belonged here, transcending everything. With a casual finger, a mature civilization appeared somewhere in the universe. The law of creation. Lu Yu had many insights about the new realm. The power of creation, why not call it the realm of the God of creation? Lu Yu said to himself. He felt it carefully and soon determined something. The number of civilizations in this universe has reached tens of millions. He created only one at the beginning. The other one was destroyed under his gaze. And these civilizations all multiplied on their own. And the warrior civilization was born. But he still wouldn't interfere too much. Even these creatures couldn't see him. He could only feel that there was a certain power in the universe. At least one era has passed, and a warrior of the Yuan-Shu realm was born. Lu Yu said to himself and laughed. He was very satisfied with the speed of civilization evolution. If he could continue to grow, even if he might fail, at least they were still there, right? With this thought, Lu Yu was about to leave. Now that he had entered the realm of the God of creation, it was meaningless to stay here. Tearing the hole in the void, Lu Yu was about to leave. But at this moment, a corner of the universe was suddenly overturned. A large area of the void collapsed, revealing a terrible scene. A corner of a black coffin was opened. In it, a black hand filled with a corrupt breath stretched out. Passing through billions of miles of void, it slapped towards Lu Yu. Finally unable to sit still, Lu Yu shook his head and was about to fight back. Now he still has some confidence. But what Lu Yu never expected was that, in front of him, time seemed to start flowing backwards. Countless pictures appeared in front of him, retreating. From the Great Wall, to the Super Galaxy Cluster, to Orion College, and even Blue Star. Everything came to that hot summer. The college entrance examination is about to be mobilized. Today we have invited the strongest genius in the entire Yuanwu city, Li Yu, to show the students. What does a real genius look like? Blue Star. Yuanwu City No. 5 Middle School. Lu Yu seemed to be here and became a bystander. On the stage, Shen Shanghe was giving a speech with great effort, sweating profusely. Next to him stood Li Yu, who was full of vigor and vitality. Lu Yu even saw himself in the audience. His eyes were a little confused, but then he was extremely surprised. Is this back to the time when he just crossed over? Lu Yu looked a little surprised. But in the next moment, the surroundings were cracking. The world turned black, and only himself, wearing white clothes, was left standing there in a daze. The black big hand went towards him. Not good. Lu Yu understood it instantly. The other party, reversed time and space. Yes, reversed time and space. Took me back to the moment when I just crossed over, and wanted to kill me who just crossed over in front of me. Impossible. Lu Yu roared, trying to stop it. But he was shocked to find that he could do nothing. He couldn't even move. This was the past time and the past space. With his own strength, he couldn't do anything. He was even forced to be brought here. He could only watch all this from the perspective of a bystander. Finally, under Lu Yu's angry gaze, he who was just immersed in the joy of obtaining the system turned into a corpse. The scene returned to normal. Someone noticed that he had fallen down and shouted for help. Shen Shanghe, who was originally giving a speech on the stage, rushed down, and Lu Yu even saw his head teacher. Whose class is this student? Principal. Mine, Our class. School doctor. Where is the school doctor? Come and save him. Principal, this student has lost vital signs. Global High Martial Arts, copy SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Yoon-Jeon Shui. Chapter 757. Lu Yu watching his body being carried away. He even saw Xiaoling crying and making a fuss. But he could do nothing, he could only watch everything from the perspective of a bystander. And this was just the beginning. Lu Yu noticed that his body was quickly becoming transparent. I said, what awaits you will be endless regret, ignorant warrior, you don't even know what kind of existence you are provoking. The figure of the strange source appeared again, he looked at Lu Yu, with pity in his eyes. Lu Yu stared at his rapidly fading hands in a daze. Is everything going to end? Chapter 0573 Forgotten by the world, the moon goddess Great Wall was broken. Is everything going to end? Lu Yu's eyes were a little dazed. He found it hard to accept that the final result was like this, and to accept his efforts all along. In the end, no waves were raised. A hint of sarcasm appeared on the face of the strange source. Now, do you regret it? If you had agreed to my request before, you wouldn't have to go through so much. The words of the strange source made Lu Yu's eyes burst. He wanted to roar, but he couldn't say anything. Looking at his figure that was about to completely disappear, Lu Yu had to admit that he was really a little confused. What kind of power is this that can do this? He looked into the void. There, the coffin lid overlapped again. One world after another was constantly destroyed. Everything seemed to be unable to be changed. He used his last bit of strength and left the old world with a bang. The strange source did not stop him, but just sneered at Lu Yu. Boom! Lu Yu tore the void, left here, broke the world barrier, and went to the original universe. And in this process, his body was disintegrating uncontrollably. Countless cells in his body turned into the finest atomic state. Lu Yu tried to stop all this from happening, but the way of creation wrapped him up, repairing him, and wanted to return to the original. But it was in vain. The past body had been killed, so how could the present body exist? Time and space are coherent. If the past self died, then the present self would surely die as well. Lu Yu could not stop all this from happening, and could only watch his body collapse into a ball of light. Confused, he rushed out of the void hole and returned to the first Great Wall. When he arrived here, Lu Yu had completely turned into an atomic state. He still had consciousness, but he had lost his entity. Without caring about so much, Lu Yu rushed towards the moon goddess Great Wall at a high speed. On the way, he was already prepared. His condition could not support him to reach the moon goddess Great Wall. What puzzled Lu Yu was that, after the body collapsed into an atomic state, the trend of deterioration stopped. Lu Yu tried to condense his body, but failed. He could not do it. The most important thing was, his power that was enough to destroy the world also dissipated. This made Lu Yu a little difficult to accept, but he still went to the moon goddess Great Wall. No matter what, he had to pass the message to the human emperor. Tell him, he had failed too. After a while, Lu Yu arrived at the moon god Great Wall. It was still like facing a great enemy here, and the human emperor was sitting on the Great Wall. Lu Yu came to his side and tried to pass the voice. But what he didn't expect was that the human emperor seemed to be unable to hear what he said. Human emperor, I failed. Human emperor. Human emperor, what's wrong with you? Lu Yu kept trying, but the human emperor still stood there, looking straight ahead, as if he didn't hear anything at all. What's going on? Lu Yu was surprised, and he found the goddess Xiantian again. But the goddess Xiantian was the same. Human emperor, why do I feel that your return this time is very sudden? The goddess Xiantian stood beside the human emperor. When the human emperor heard the words of the goddess Xiantian, he also frowned slightly. Yes, I feel like I did a lot of things before, but I can't remember them, and my blood is also missing a part. Same feeling, I always feel that something is missing. The two talked, and Lu Yu stood by, as if he was ignored. When he heard these words, his eyes were a little stunned. But there was no time to think too much. Lu Yu left here. Since the human emperor couldn't sense him for some reason, he could only go to find Xiaoling. Arriving at the Orion Academy, Lu Yu came to the front of the palace. Before approaching the palace, Lu Yu heard laughter. Sister Xiaoling, are we really going to the hotel to play cards tonight? Yes. I have made an appointment with Qing Xian. Oh, then let's go now. As he said, Lu Ling and Duo Lala came out. They passed through Lu Yu's body, and Lu Yu tried to shout. This time, Lu Ling stopped. I seem to hear my brother's voice. Huh? How is that possible, Sister Xiaoling? Didn't you say your brother was dead? Oh, why do I feel like I forgot something? Doralala said, wrinkling her nose, her face a little thoughtful. In the end, the two left, leaving Lu Yu standing there alone, with a dull expression on his face. What did Doralala say? I am already dead. Thinking of something, Lu Yu rushed into his bedroom on the second floor. But there was nothing there, only a dusty bed, as if no one had ever lived there. Shocked, Lu Yu disappeared here. When he reappeared, he was already in Yuanwu City on Blue Star. He walked into his home in Yuanwu City. Lu Yu saw a familiar photo of himself and Xiaoling. He entered his bedroom, where everything was very neat, but covered in dust. He left here and came to the Sky Villa. It was almost exactly as Lu Yu expected. There was nothing here either. Am I dead? Global High Martial Arts, copy SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Yunzhong Mu Shui. Chapter 758. Everything about me was forcibly erased from the entire world. But why am I still alive? Lu Yu's eyes were a little dazed. He could understand why all this had nothing to do with him. Because if he died, everything in the future would not happen. But why, everything in this world is still the way he left it? Only himself was forcibly erased from everyone's mind? Everything about myself stayed in the summer before the college entrance examination. It's really interesting. Behind Lu Yu, the strange source appeared at some point. He looked at Lu Yu with sympathy. Have you experienced this feeling of being abandoned by the whole world? You have paid so much, but no one remembers it. The words of the strange source were full of ridicule and pity. When Lu Yu heard this, he turned around and looked at him in silence. What does it want to do? What the Lord wants to do is very simple, just to let you experience this feeling of despair and helplessness, and let you watch this universe being destroyed with your own eyes. This is a punishment for you. The strange source smiled. Lu Yu was completely silent. The anger in his heart burned to the extreme. Then, it was extinguished by despair. Now, he was left with only silence. I don't know what to say anymore. A world destined to be destroyed, a solution that cannot be changed. Everything is like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. It's really interesting, a hero who fantasizes about saving the world, and then you just watch how this world is destroyed bit by bit. The weird source took a last look at Lu Yu and left. After he left, Lu Yu also left. He tried to find some proof that he had existed. But everything disappeared. The whole world was like a painting, and the part about himself was wiped clean by an invisible big hand. At the same time, on this day, the weird broke through the moon god Great Wall. Chapter 0574 cried for this world, the power of transcendence. The moon god Great Wall was broken. Two weird source-level beings walked out from nowhere. The three weird sources joined forces, and the human emperor and the moon god Great Wall were destroyed together. The whole universe was wailing. It was on this day that countless strange news was known to the whole universe. Countless creatures were desperate and pessimistic that such terrible news had been buried for so long. But it was all too late. The speed at which the strangeness spread was beyond imagination. After the moon goddess Great Wall was broken, there was nothing that could stop them. In less than a day, everything around the moon goddess Great Wall was swallowed up. The whole universe collapsed completely. Destruction seemed to be just a matter of time. In this situation, Lu Yu watched the moon goddess Great Wall being broken, watched the human emperor die, and watched the Xiantian goddess die. From beginning to end, he could do nothing. He could only watch all this as an outsider. He couldn't even call out the system. He was a little discouraged and returned to the Orion Academy. Here, Lu Ling was ready to return to Blue Star. Sister Xiaoling, I'm going back to my home planet too, goodbye. Duo Lala looked at Lu Ling, her big eyes full of tears. No one expected that things would happen so suddenly. Lu Ling nodded, said goodbye to Duo Lala, and left here. On the way, the girl was very calm. But after returning to Blue Star, returning to the dilapidated outer city house, she couldn't help crying. Brother, is the world going to be destroyed? Looking at Lu Ling crying with her photo in her arms, Lu Yu felt very uncomfortable. He wanted to comfort her, but he couldn't touch her. He wanted to talk to Lu Ling, but he couldn't do it either. He seemed to have become a ghost in this world, existing, but not really existing. Lu Yu began to think about it. If he had made the request from the weird source, would the ending be like this? Why did he want to be that great hero? Why did he think about the unrealistic fantasy of saving the universe every day? Why? At this moment, Lu Yu suddenly hated himself. He looked at Lu Ling, who was crying like a tearful man, and slowly closed his eyes. Karma has its retribution, and everything he did may never have any meaning. Everything that happened when Lu Yu came to Blue Star began to flow back into his mind. From the joy of getting the system, to the sadness of seeing Xiaoling buy him spirit stones after meeting her. Then to winning the college entrance examination and rising straight to the top. Most of his life seemed to have been smooth sailing, and he could be said to have achieved success at a young age. But now, he has become like this. Neither a human nor a ghost, nothing at all. Between his eyes, Lu Yu only felt that his passion had slowly cooled down. Even drinking ice for 10 years could not cool his passion. Perhaps, it was time to take a break. Lu Yu no longer forced himself to gather together in an atomic state. At this moment, his body turned into countless microscopic particles. Hundreds of millions. These particles, driven by Lu Yu's last force, spread to the entire universe. After that, Lu Yu never thought too much about anything again. He seemed to have turned into everything in this world. Wind, rain, thunder and lightning. All. From the movement of celestial bodies to the movement of molecules, Lu Yu seemed to be involved in it. Every microscopic particle contained his consciousness. Lu Yu watched everything in this world quietly with an absolutely indifferent and spectator mentality. Watching the universe being destroyed by the black fog. Watching the weird massacre. Watching the dead creatures stand up one after another. Watching the black fog gradually sweeping towards the blue planet at the corner of the Milky Way. At this moment, the black fog covered the sky and heavy rain fell on the blue planet. Destroyed, everything was destroyed. Lu Yu watched Lu Ling die. Raindrops fell on the girl's pale face, which were Lu Yu's tears. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Global High Martial Arts, copy SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Yun Zhonmu Shui. Chapter 759. No one knows, but this cannot cover up the fact that I have cried for this world. At this moment, Lu Yu died completely. He truly became a ghost in this world, walking between everything. During the time when the black fog destroyed the universe, his body particles entered between everything. Became a star, became dust. He also turned into a part of a newborn baby, lived an ordinary life, born, old, sick and died. He also became a beast, eating raw meat and drinking blood, and was muddle-headed. In the end, the entire universe was extinguished. The black fog covered everything. Lu Yu's body was also in every corner of the universe. Finally on this day, the weird source appeared in front of Lu Yu again. How? This is a basic particle of Lu Yu's body, carrying Lu Yu's consciousness. Lu Yu looked at each other and couldn't speak. In the end, the weird source laughed and left. This universe was destroyed, but a new world was born. Lu Yu was completely forgotten. Everything he loved and hated turned into rotten dust or a smelly corpse in this old universe. Lu Yu stopped thinking. He couldn't die. The path he took destined him to be alone forever. Long years passed, so long that Lu Yu didn't know how long it had been. The whole universe became cold, cold to the bone. All matter could not move, even Lu Yu's elementary particles. The universe was in heat death. If no new force was generated, it would only be like this forever. Even time seemed to stop flowing. Another long time passed. Lu Yu felt that his thinking had become rigid. It seemed that he had lost his basic ability to think. At this moment, he laughed. Because he understood. Everything was finally coming to an end. Lost the body, but still had the mind. And if the mind died, then it would really be dead. This was a relief for him. Eternal loneliness made him think a lot. In the end, he only came to one conclusion. No matter how hard he struggled, the final result was only a dead end. Die. It's better to die. No need to worry too much. I've been to this world before. Lu Yu closed his eyes after taking a last look at the universe. Many people appeared in his mind. Some were from the Lord of Flame, some were from Dakiao, and some were from the Emperor of Man. There were many people. But at the last moment, Lu Yu still thought of Xiaoling. He thought of the quirky girl. He thought of the tears on the pale face. It's over. Goodbye, world. Lu Yu's consciousness began to dissipate. And at the moment when his consciousness was about to disappear completely, a mechanical voice sounded. The taboo challenge achievement is achieved, and the power of transcendence is infused. Chapter 0575 Reversing Time and Space, the title of Emperor. The taboo challenge achievement is achieved, and the power of transcendence is infused. At the moment this voice sounded, countless elementary particles in the universe quickly gathered under a mysterious force, and finally turned into the appearance of Lu Yu. Beside him, countless fragments shining with white light surrounded him. These fragments seemed to be repairing and transforming something. Lu Yu could sense that his rigid mind was recovering quickly. The feeling of weakness was fading, and strength was returning. System, U. The system disintegrated and transformed into the power of transcendence. I am honored to accompany the host all the way. The system voice sounded again. After that, more fragments shining with light appeared. These fragments seemed to contain some unimaginable power, changing everything. Lu Yu could sense that his strength had instantly returned to its original peak state. But he didn't pay attention to these, he was calling the system. System, answer me a question. No answer. System, are you still there? Still no answer. System, where are you from? Host, the system comes from a very far place, we will meet again. The last voice came out. Then, no matter how Lu Yu spoke, the system did not respond again, as if it really left like this. System, is gone? Lu Yu looked at his palm. More fragments appeared. These fragments wrapped around Lu Yu's body, making his strength grow rapidly. Lu Yu didn't know what happened. He only knew these were probably the power transformed by the disintegration of the system. With his eyes closed, Lu Yu felt the changes in his body. It was too long ago. For too long, Lu Yu hadn't felt the feeling of being truly alive. A touchable body, strong breathing, and rapidly growing cultivation. Lu Yu didn't know what happened. He accepted it all calmly. The last help from the system lasted for a long time. After a long time, Lu Yu opened his eyes. The last fragment flew into his forehead. Boom! The whole universe seemed to be trembling at this moment. The endless space fluctuated, and Lu Yu looked at his palm. Global High Martial Arts, copy SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Yunzhong Shui. Chapter 760. At this moment, I seemed to have reached a whole new level. A feeling of being almost omnipotent surged in my heart. Have I entered a new realm again? Lu Yu pondered. In the unconscious state of billions of years before, I may have accidentally reached the 16th realm of the system. And now, I have received the last infusion of transcendent power from the system. I seem to have entered the 17th realm. What realm is this? Lu Yu felt that he seemed to have become a real god at this moment. Omnipotent, overlooking everything. He looked at a certain area of the universe. It was a devastated area. Several ruined stars were moving around a cooling star. But in Lu Yu's eyes, at this moment, they had countless states. Yes, countless states. Every different time node is a different state. Every minute and every second before was independent in Lu Yu's eyes. Even in the distant past, the scene before the destruction of the universe appeared. Reaching out his hand, Lu Yu tapped in the small galaxy. The next moment, a great force rewrote everything. The originally destroyed small galaxy returned to its previous appearance. The stars began to emit light and heat again, and even on the planets, there were living beings. Everything here was restored to the state before the destruction of the universe. And as Lu Yu pointed his finger again, everything returned to its current state. After standing there for a long time, Lu Yu's eyes flashed with an incredible color. Am I possessing the power to reverse time and space? Reverse time and space? Lu Yu's mood was somewhat difficult to suppress joy. Reverse. Force everything to reverse back to that day. Back to the moment when he became the god of creation and the existence in the coffin wanted to attack him. Boom. Without any hesitation, Lu Yu took action. At the moment he took action, the entire universe seemed to be driven by an infinite great force. Time was flowing backwards rapidly, the stars were moving again, the stars were shining, and the super galaxy clusters were gathering. Everything is changing, only Lu Yu is in the middle of the universe, as if it is eternal. Finally, the entire universe has returned to the moment when the moon god Great Wall was broken. Lu Yu pushed time again. This time, his body began to move. Passing through the moon god Great Wall, through the 8 great walls, through the void hole, and came to the old world. Time stopped here. Everything around remained still. Only Lu Yu could move. He looked at the black giant hand that stretched out from the coffin. The black giant hand stagnated in the air, and seemed to be solidified in time. But soon, the hand moved, and a blood-red eye appeared in the palm of the hand, looking at Lu Yu. What did you do? A decayed voice sounded in the universe, as if resonating with everything. Lu Yu knew. The other party realized something. He came from the lower reaches of the long river of time and rewrote everything. It is impossible not to be noticed. The other party is a creature of the same level as himself. But despite this, Lu Yu's eyes were very calm. I'm here to kill you. This time, it was the other party's turn to be silent. Lu Yu did not answer its question, but said he wanted to kill it. Everything around seemed to be silent at this moment. Time was frozen, only Lu Yu and the existence in the coffin were still conscious. After a long time, a voice finally sounded again. "You are the second one. The second one who can confront you head-on," Lu Yu smiled. But this was denied. "No, you are the second one who can reach the title of emperor." "What do you mean?" Lu Yu said calmly. This time, the existence in the coffin did not explain anything. "Don't stop me anymore, we will all be the same kind of creatures in the end, and this world can only be destroyed." After saying this, Lu Yu shook his head. "Sorry, you and I are not the same kind of people, and you won't have a chance." Lu Yu looked at the coffin. "Kill him, and everything will be over." Facing Lu Yu's words, the coffin was suddenly opened up halfway. "You are courting death." Boom. At the moment when the coffin lid was opened, a smell of extreme decay and ominousness appeared with a bang. In the solidified time and space of the old universe, everything was destroyed in an instant. Including the weird source, it disappeared in an instant. In the entire old universe, only Lu Yu and the coffin were left. A black giant hand supported the edge of the coffin, and a figure crawled out of it. Chapter 0576 A Drop of Black Blood, the Dragon Slayer eventually became an evil dragon. A figure crawled out along the edge of the coffin. Like an evil ghost, with disheveled hair. On the rotten body, black blood dripped, full of weird breath. At this moment, Lu Yu narrowed his eyes slightly. He clearly remembered that the human emperor said that he was contaminated by the source material. Is this the source? The existence in the coffin completely climbed down from the coffin. Black blood was constantly dripping from its body. This black blood corroded the space, large areas of space disappeared, and even the void collapsed, revealing a deep black color. At this moment, Lu Yu saw its face. On its face, there were only bones and eye sockets with blood-red flames. "Lu Yu, you'd better not stop me, otherwise the consequences will be more terrible than you think." Lu Yu did not respond to this, and he did not want to respond. It was meaningless. Today, it's a matter of life and death. Obviously, the existence in the coffin also understood this and laughed. At this moment, its body was actually changing. From a terrifying state, it turned into a young man wearing a white robe and holding a fan. Lu Yu narrowed his eyes. The other party shook his head.